Welcome to WOMXNAIRE episode 4. Today you're going to hear from Sandy Marsico. She is going to share the 2 key things that took her from solopreneur to CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. She's also going to share some of the limiting beliefs that she's had as an entrepreneur, because I know we can all resonate with that. So enjoy! Sandy Marsico, thank you so much for being here as part of the WOMXNAIRE interviews. You and I met a few years ago at a luncheon here in Chicago. We both do a lot of networking. We've stayed connected since, and I'm so grateful that you have agreed to be a part of this. I'm really excited for you to share with our viewers the knowledge that you've gained throughout these, 20 years of owning a business?
It has. I officially was 21 last year, so I'm finally legal.
Oh my gosh. And you started your business in your 20s, right?
I did. I was 24 years old when I called my parents, told them I was going to quit my job and start this company called Sandstorm.
Tell me a little bit about that experience getting started. You were a solopreneur at the time. First of all, why did you decide to go out on your own?
I really wanted to work for a small boutique agency, just a handful of people. And after months and months of trying to apply at these small agencies, I realized very quickly that it was a lot of who you know. And I was only 24, so I didn't really have a big network. And small agencies with just a handful of people, they're not hiring all the time. So it's really hard, right? When it's a small company and you want to work at a small company, to find a small company to work for. So after about 6 months, I threw up my hands and said, fine, I'll just build it myself.
Your father was an entrepreneur. Do you feel like that gave you some courage?
Absolutely. When I was a kid and my brother and I would be at the dinner table, my dad used to make us repeat, I am a leader, I am not a follower. That is both how my brother and I grew up. And he always used to say, you don't want to work for somebody, you want to work for yourself. In the beginning, I was like, you are crazy. It is way easier to work for somebody else. But here I am, I'm 24, and I bought a book on how to start a business. And both my parents were crazy supportive, like emotionally supportive, being like, hey, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back home. If it doesn't work out, you can always go get a job. Just their belief in that I could do virtually anything, that support was invaluable. I mean, and they even supported me in college. I went to college to be an art major. I was a painter. They didn't worry at all, or they didn't give me the impression that they worried at all about me. Just do what you love, learn how to learn. And I say those same things to my kids today. Learn how to learn. That's really what school is about, not necessarily what you learn.
That's true. I never thought about that. There's not much I learned in college that I actually apply, but it was more of that knowledge you gain. I do think about some of the experiences.
The business I have today didn't exist when I was in college. You couldn't possibly do or build or sell what I do today. So I run a digital creative agency. When I went to college, you weren't building these large scale e-commerce websites or these web applications. You weren't doing user experience research and usability testing. So even in college, I couldn't have learned what I needed to learn for this business. So I ultimately went back to grad school and got my master's in marketing. And even then, I learned traditional marketing tactics, but it wasn't like they were really teaching the digital that you need to know today.
Tell us a little bit about your company, Sandstorm. What is it that you do for your customers right now?
We help brands understand what is really important to their customer. So we start almost every project with that in-depth user research to understand where the white space opportunities are, understand how they can connect with them, how they can create engagement, particularly in the digital space. So a lot of what the outcome is of that research, it could be action items on how to improve your website. Maybe we're building out a new website. Maybe we're building out a new brand strategy platform so that we're working on that messaging so that you can meet your customers where they're at. You're no longer guessing about it. We're taking and reducing all the subjectivity out of the creative process. If you really can pull that insight about your customer and what it is that they really care about, then we can design the messaging, the marketing, we can meet them where they're at, we can build the tools that they're looking for that's built for them, essentially by them.
That is so important because there's so much messaging out there and so many companies trying to get your attention now. For you to provide that for a business so that they can speak directly to their customer and stand out amongst all that other noise.
Well, and we've done over 3,400 hours of in-depth user research, understanding human behavior. So when
Oh,
we work with a new
interesting.
client, we get to build off of thousands of hours of insights that we already know, because humans are so much more similar than we are different. And that's
Yeah.
what's most fascinating about it. If I'm running a usability study, I only need 5 to 6, that is correct, 5 to 6 users from a particular user group to identify 80% of the issues.
Wow, I love it. It's kind of
It is.
psychology too.
I do.
That's so
It
interesting.
is. It's a mix of like anthropology and psychology and marketing, all kind of rolled up into one. I absolutely love what I do.
So you started your company in your 20s. Were you doing then what you're doing now? Walk me through how that shifted throughout the years.
So when I first started, right, very much like any kind of solopreneur, I originally thought, okay, my business model is going to be, I'm going to be the go-to freelancer for all these cool agencies. When they have extra work, they're going to, pawn it off to me. That was my plan. That lasted 6 months. And I say it lasted 6 months because I got a couple agency clients right away. And what I learned very quickly is that I didn't have control at all,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The agency had all the control. And what I mean by that is control of the relationship, of what was coming next. So I was
Mm.
kind of at their mercy. If they had a project, I got it. If they didn't, they didn't. And I couldn't really see forward too well. So I had made a decision within those first 6 months that I need to get my own clients so I can control that relationship, know where the work is coming, know if I can find additional work. And I share that today because there's so many entrepreneurs, they think like, oh, there's this great big business plan when you get to a certain level and that CEO had it all figured out on day one. I didn't. I had a vision. I had an idea. I thought I was going to be this freelancer. I saw really quickly that kind of sucks. I should probably go direct. And then the big question was, how do I find clients? Because I'm 24, I have no network. My parents don't really have a network because my dad's business has nothing to do with my business, right? He was in manufacturing and distribution of golf supplies. I don't even golf. So what do I got to do? And I read an article that said the difference between sales and marketing: sales, you pick up the phone and call them; marketing, they call you. I was like, ding,
Uh-huh.
marketing
Okay.
works for me. I want people to call me. And when I first started, not only was I a freelancer, but I was doing design, huge avid reader. So I bought a book on how to start a business. I bought a book on HTML. I bought a book on CSS, right? I bought a book on marketing. I used to do everything. I would sell the work. I would write the work. I would design the work. I would develop the work, right? I'd produce it. I'd manage it, just like a lot of people when they start. If it was something I didn't know, I just bought yet another book and just read the book and did what the book said.
It didn't have to be perfect when you first started. You had an idea, then you researched it, you figured out how to do it yourself, but you have scaled your business to multi seven figures. What were some of the steps it took to get there? Because you went from solopreneur to you have, what is it? How many employees now?
40.
Wow, that is incredible. What were like the steps that it took to get there, especially when you're on your own and you're hiring your first employee? I mean, that's kind of scary, isn't it?
There's so much. For me personally, the hardest trip was from 0 to 1 million, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
there's so much change on that path up to 1 million, and so much that you as an entrepreneur need to learn to be able
Mhm.
to get there. At least that was my experience. And there was two fundamental things that I believe took me from being a solopreneur to an entrepreneur running now a multi-million dollar agency. And the first one was, remember I was talking about the sales and marketing? It was search engine optimization. I
Mm.
taught myself search engine optimization. I do not remember sleeping. I spent a weekend building a new website, re-optimizing it, thinking, I wonder if this will work. And I launch on a Sunday night. I finally go to bed. I wake up Monday morning and I get my first lead, and it was Career Builder. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my God, this works, right? So then the next couple weeks, I don't remember sleeping at all because I was like, this totally works. So not only did we got the RFP and I filled it out, we won the business. We ended up keeping them for over 10 years, millions of dollars in revenue over the course of the year,
Wow.
all through search engine optimization. That is what actually made the connection for me on how I was able to grow the business, because on the web, you are what your website kind of looks like you are. So I built something that made us look bigger than we were at that time. And I started attracting leads. And search engine optimization is one avenue that we still win business from. So that's how we won Allstate. That's how we won Dell. We win big brands. They're still going on Google looking for agencies and looking for partners. But that's how I started. Monumental thing one, you need to get some customers.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really mean that you're actually going to grow a scalable business. The second, by far game changing thing I did, I'm a huge believer in peer advisory groups. I joined Vistage. My only challenge with Vistage was that it was very male dominated, and I was one of the only females in the group. And I happened to be pregnant at the time, and just really felt like I needed some perspective that wasn't just male. So then I joined WPO, which is the Women's Presidents Organization. I've been a member of WPO ever since, and I'm also on the board of the WPO now. That's how much I believe in peer advisory groups. Now, both Vistage and WPO, you have to be up to that like $1 million mark to get into those programs. So I love learning. I'm a lifelong learner. One of our core values is to be curious. We hire spongy people that love to learn as well. And that's been by far the greatest thing I've ever done as a CEO, is to be a part of a peer advisory group.
Thank you. I could not agree more. As you know, I started the Powerful Partners Forum, the revenue bar to get into organizations like Vistage and EO and WPO. It's pretty high. And there are a lot of women who have not reached that level yet. And that's why it's such a boys club. I wanted to create something that does not have a revenue bar that women have to reach. My real ideal audience is what you were talking about. It's that 0 to $1 million, because that is a really big jump. I mean, I'm going through it right now myself. And I can tell you, being a part of my own Powerful Partners Forum was a game changer, especially last year during a pandemic. We came together and really held that space for each other to go through these emotional things and to grow our business, learning so much from each other. And I will say, one of the things that I love about it, I'm very competitive. I'm guessing you are too. Yep. You know, having these other women and seeing what they're accomplishing, what they're up to. And it's like, oh my gosh, it really makes you want to be on your own game, because you're watching what they're achieving, then learning from what they're going through, as well as learning through my own experiences and sharing that with other women. You talked about processing issues. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and why it's so important for entrepreneurs to be a part of something like that?
Absolutely. And I'll take it a step further. Not only do I believe in processing issues with, let's say, a CEO cohort, but I brought that exact same practice to my executive team. And we do a level 10 meeting every Monday morning, and we have a process that we go through, and we added extra time to our morning meetings every week to process issues, because the whole concept is that more minds are better than one.
Yep.
Right? More ideas better than one. It's a twofold. Not only do you get all the good brains in the room, but you also are building that camaraderie that together we can solve anything. How we process an issue is it starts with like a clear, concise one sentence. And it usually starts with the issue is, because you want everybody around the table or everyone on the Zoom call or in the room to understand what's the point, like what's the issue. And then we go into some details. Then we go into here's help I'd like from the group. So we kind of identify, and like I said, the group could be your fellow CEOs or the group could be your executive team. Here's the help that I need. And then here's where I'm leaning. I'll even share like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Here's all my options. And this is what I'm leaning towards. And then the group gets to ask questions. No one gets advice yet, but they get to go around and ask questions. And we do one question per person. And we keep going around the room until there's no more questions left. And then the advice comes. And then you kind of get the advice. And then if it was me that's processing the issue at the end, I'll then share, this is what I heard. And this is what I'm going to do. Because it's going to be expected that I have to report on it the next time we meet, and I will. So it's an accountability chain. It's a clarity process, right? So it helps you as the entrepreneur really identify the issue, really focus on the details that matter, and then process a solution.
Yeah, and we do that in the Powerful Partners Forum too. It is the most impactful part of every meeting. Actually, it's the largest part of every meeting is that
Absolutely.
time to process the issues. And we call it challenges. I don't know. I had a little bit of an issue with the word issue.
Issues. Yeah.
The book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. There's an entire chapter in that book about the power of the mastermind. The way he described it is you have one battery, you get a certain amount of power from one battery. You bring multiple batteries together, that is actually what powers this toy or this machine. It won't run on just one battery.
Part of being an entrepreneur and choosing this different path is it's really lonely.
Yeah.
And over the years, my entire circle now, like almost everybody that I know or I hang out with or I talk to or I text, we all run companies.
That's what I love about the Powerful Partners Forum and other peer advisory groups. If you are having a personal challenge, it's a safe space for you to talk about that with other people who want to help you out. They want you to be successful in your personal life and your business.
Personal can impact business. And I'll share one if you want to hear a personal issue that I had brought up.
Yeah.
You know, I had 2 young kids and I was struggling a little bit with the life choice that I made to be an entrepreneur and to run a growing company. And we're growing really fast because there's parts of you that thinks, oh, I kind of thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, but I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I've got this other life path too. So you have this like guilt kind of piece, like pulling you to, should I be this? Should I be that? What do I want to be? How do I be both? How do I have it all? And I processed that as an issue. And I got a really great piece of advice. The suggestion came back from the group that said, hey, why don't you take a week off a quarter and be stay-at-home mom? Make the lunches, pick them up from school. Then I started figuring out what was it that I really wanted? What was really important to me? It was being there and present for homework or for walks or for listening. And what I learned is I would be really good at that if I could get away too. So I started planning like these family vacations that weren't jam-packed with too much to do, but allowed for that quality time. And I still follow it to this day. They're now 7th and 8th grade.
That is such a great piece of advice. I know so many mom entrepreneurs are going to hear that from this interview and really take a lot away from that. Sandy, what is the biggest challenge you've had to overcome as a woman entrepreneur?
I'm an entrepreneur first who happens to be a woman. But the biggest challenge that I had to overcome is calling myself a CEO.
Really?
Even to this day, I still think, do I have a real company? Right? 20 years, millions of dollars in revenue, working with huge global brands, right? Is it real? It's real. It took me a good 10 years to call myself CEO. And I don't know, is it imposter syndrome? Is it just my, how young I was when I started? Was it just because I had this vision of what a CEO was? But I'm a CEO. And
I love it.
It took a long time for me to wear that. A long time.
Why do you think it is that women really struggle with stuff like that? Because you're not the only one. There's so many limiting beliefs that we have. I know that that's one of the reasons that only 1.7% of $1 million businesses out there are women owned. Why are we so hard on ourselves?
Well, I'm going to say, yes, we are perfectionists often. And yes, we are very hard on ourselves. But I also believe that society is kind of hard on us, even accidentally. Like even accidentally. When I decided to quit my job, I had very good friends of mine, very close friends of mine who normally I would say are crazy supportive and they love me, right? Mm-hmm. They would ask me when I was going to get a real job.
Wow.
It was their own fear talking, their own like life path. You go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, you stay in that job and you get promoted. And that's how, you build wealth. Like there's a belief, right? That's the more common belief, particularly when I started my business. It's getting better today. Entrepreneurialism is, definitely more widely regarded today, but there is that idea. So it was accidental pressure. When are you going to get a real job? And I was like, this is a job. No, I mean like a real job. Yeah. So why did I feel like I wasn't a CEO? Because my besties are asking me when I'm going to get a real job. I took it not for the value of what it was. I'm curious about what you're doing, and took it as somehow it was pressuring me. So I'm 100% accountable for my feelings on that. I'm 100% accountable for my insecurity to call myself CEO. That just took time and confidence. So I share that with everybody that's listening. Find that mirror and say, what am I limiting myself on?
You've hit multiple seven figures. Did you have to work through any limiting beliefs around money, or do you have any awareness around that? Because I know that is one of the reasons I truly feel like women struggle so much to hit that seven-figure mark. We are totally capable of it. We run a lot of different aspects of family life and everything. Were there any areas that you felt you had to really overcome?
I'm going to build upon something you said about the 1.7% women that ever hit the million in revenue. When the first time I hit a million in revenue, the metric was only 4% of any and all American companies ever hit a million in revenue. Right now, in today's day, it's 7%, but this is including Google, Facebook, GE, right? So 7% will ever hit a million. And now of that 7%, it's 1.7 is women. And I do like to win, right? That whole competitive side. Yep. So what I had to put out there, right? The hardest part, I don't know that it was money. I'm talking about business dollars, I can talk about 1 million, 5 million, 500,000, right? But when you're talking about personal dollars, like, ooh, do I want the medium or the large? There's $1.25 difference, right? So my own personal dollars, I see very different than I do like business dollars, right? What I had to do is to say, I could put that big stretch goal out there. And what I told myself is, I want to be part of the 4%. If only 4% ever hit a million in revenue, that's what I'm going to do. So I took my personal saving dollars, looking at what a dollar is, and actually separated that from business revenue and business dollars and said, I want to win. And what is win looking like? That means making it into that top 4%. And I will never forget, I was driving in the car. My husband called me because he does all our bookkeeping. He called me, and the only thing he said was, welcome to the 4%. The day he entered in the revenue that hit the million, right? And I was like, oh my God, right? Like, it's just, that was the everything for me. It wasn't the dollars, even though dollars are the scorecard. What I really wanted to be was that 4%. Or I didn't even slice. Again, I think of myself as an entrepreneur first, who happens to be a woman. So now you saying that the 1.7%, and I know, so we've surpassed 5 million in revenue. And I know that number is the 0.0 something percent of women that ever hit 5. It is. Yeah. It is. I do not believe it. I'm sitting here talking to you and I still don't believe it. Like, I have a real company. This is really what I do. Like, this is real. And that part surprised me. It didn't go away. The other part that didn't go away is, I used to believe, this is a limiting belief, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but yes, it was hard going from 0 to 1, but I believed once I hit 1 million, things would be a lot easier. They're not. They're just different problems. It's just different. So I even had a friend of mine who hasn't hit his million yet. And he's like, I got to know, is it easier? And I laughed. I was like, I thought the same thing. I actually thought it was going to be easier. Ha, ha, ha. It's just different. So it's all hard.
New level, new devil. What is your biggest piece of advice for women entrepreneurs who do want to reach that 7-figure mark?
I think my best piece of advice is going to be not to give up. If you were to ask me, like, how did you do it? The reality, I lose way more than I win. I do. If you look at the numbers, I'm going to lose more than I win. But every loss, I think, whew, got that one out of the way. That means a win is coming. A win always comes. And I had a mentor that once told me, because I was really sad about losing something once, right? Like losing a piece of business. She said, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Every loss means you're one more step closer to a win. I literally just didn't give up. That's it. I don't know how else to say it. No matter what happened, I just didn't give up. Yeah. And I just tried again. Oh, I also just didn't do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, because that's just straight up insanity. Yeah. So there are times that you have to look back. Oh, okay. So you lose something, or something doesn't go your way, or you don't have a growth year. I'll look back and try to figure it out. I think of everything as like, oh, this is just another problem to solve. That's essentially what my entire business is, just problems to solve. And I know I can problem solve, and I know I have a peer advisory group that can help me problem solve. So That's all this is. It's just one more problem to solve. So I look at the loss, I look at what I could have done differently, and I just apply it to the next one.
I do that too. There's an exercise I have called the reflection exercise, where every time I do something that's great, that works so well, or something doesn't go so well, I go through that list of questions and I work out what were the lessons in this. And what the end of it is, you come up with a new standard going forward so that you can apply that. If you have the same situation come up another time, you now know what to do so that you don't make that same mistake over, or you now know what you can do to get that same result that you want to continue.
Well, and I think what's also really important with that learning is to know when to let go
That's
of
so
the
true.
idea, know when to let go, that it's not quite working the way you thought it was, and then that's okay. I saw a CEO make some choices that didn't turn out for him. And I said, "Oh, do you regret it?" That's something I'm working on. I tend to look back. And he said to me, "No. I made the best decision possible at the time with the information I had."
He owned it.
It's a different way of looking at that perseverance and knowing when to let go and knowing how to let go of regret.
Now that you have reached this multi seven figures, what's important to you now?
Building the life I want and the company to support it, to build the kind of company I'd want to work for, attracting those that share the same values that we share, with the open mind that you build your life first and the career to fit in with that.
What are some of the things that you look for then when you're interviewing somebody to really identify that?
I ask them what it is that they're looking to achieve in life, and then try to see if I can help them see how a career at Sandstorm could have them achieve those personal goals too, and have the flexibility that they're looking for. You learn really quickly who are life builders. This is your company too. Like, build this with me. What is it that you want? What's the dream company that you want to work for? Tell me how we can make some changes. And something that we have going on right now, I have two phenomenal employees that have a huge passion for inclusion design and accessibility. These two were so driven about the change that we can make in the world that the two of them opted to go to these conferences and events and study and learn all about inclusion design and accessibility. And now every 2 weeks, they are putting on a workshop and they're teaching and training my entire staff on accessible design, on disabilities, on bias, right? On diversity, on inclusion. They chose this. This was important to them. This is what they'd like to see in a company. They're now educating, and we made it open. Volunteer. If you want to come, come. We have almost 100% attendance, huge amount of engagement, all these questions, because this is something, it ended up not being just two people that were interested in it. It was two people that were the drivers. And then they drove this education because they understand they want to build the kind of company they want to work for. And I want to be the platform for that. And it's a learning moment for all of us.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I want to acknowledge you for the amazing leadership, the ability to be vulnerable and share your story here today of what that meant for you to really be present with your family and to make that part of what you do in your business as well, part of your life, and create more of a lifestyle for your employees that gives them the permission to really be their best selves as well.
Thank you, Megan. And I might add, I'm building a business to scale, right? I'm just building it in a way that I believe if it works for me, it can work for others.